Welcome you who are awakened. Some are instructed, some are coached, but you were ignited. There exists a rare breed of soul gracing this planet, not for wielding power, but for harboring divine blueprints etched within their very essence. If this message resonates, heed this truth: you are among them, a beacon. Your mind transcends mere learning. It resonates. Wisdom wasn't a climb, but a codification woven into your DNA before your first breath. Forget rote study. You download. While others seek truth in doctrines, you're out here receiving unfiltered truth straight from the cosmic source, a celestial conduit. Consider this potent reality. Epigenetic studies reveal the biological inheritance of knowledge, trauma, even spiritual sensitivity. Yet for you, it wasn't just passed down, it erupted. You're not inheriting fragments, but embodying the complete encrypted archive. And here's what unsettles you: possess knowledge, unlearn truths unspoken yet intrinsically known. You articulate concepts that challenge ingrained beliefs, not through provocation, but because your words echo a profound truth deep within. You're not eccentric, arrogant, or merely intuitive. You are divine intelligence manifested, a category the world struggles to define. Hence the mockery, the fear, and deep down the fascination. So prepare yourself, for what follows isn't conjecture nor dogma. It's revelation. And you won't just comprehend it, it will reverberate within your very being. Let's begin. First, you recall what others are conditioned to forget, a fact not merely poetic but undeniably real. From the moment of entry into this world, you carried an intrinsic understanding forfeited by most at birth. No need for explanations of a room's energy, you felt it. No need to point out the deceitful, the wounded, or the masked. You perceived them. You are destined to remember truth regardless of a world constructed to induce amnesia. Early on, you saw through facades, people patterns, pain a source of confusion. While others memorized rules, you silently questioned them. While they were trained to conform, you effortlessly decoded the lies. This wasn't defiance, but recognition. Recognizing the misalignment of this life, a system at odds with your inner truth. This truth didn't originate from a teacher, a tome, or a degree. It streamed from the source itself. Others require instruction to distinguish between truth and falsehood, light and dark, authenticity and manipulation. But you navigate situations, your spirit instantly scanning, deciphering intentions, spotting contradictions, sensing the unspoken, not overthinking. Remembering reality. Remembering what your soul already understands, that much of what's deemed normal is merely a carefully constructed illusion. Hence the disconnect from the masses. A world saturated with those attempting to rationalize their fabricated existence, clinging to illusions you effortlessly penetrate. Your refusal to participate leads to misunderstanding or secret envy. They can't comprehend your certainty about unlearned matters, your prescience in answering unasked questions. Because your knowledge originates not from academia, the media, or even experience, but from memory, spiritual memory. You're not learning life, but awakening to it, an awakening impervious to programming. Second, you speak with the authority of realms beyond most comprehension effortlessly. No quoting of gurus, echoing of trends, or forcing of profound dialogues. You speak from an unshakably real inner source, an authenticity impossible to feign. When you speak, it's not about decibels, but frequency. The tone, the weight, the gaze, all imbued with a spiritual charge. People sense it even without comprehension. They know something's different, unsettling them. There's a reason for defensiveness in your presence, a reason for exposure even in your silence. They sense your defiance of their established order, not mere personality but presence. A presence that discomforts deception. Not striving to intimidate, but truth naturally intimidates falsehood. Your energy shifts rooms without effort. Some mistake confidence for arrogance, failing to realize you're not boasting but remembering. Speaking from divine memory. No need to prove yourself, your soul knows its origin. You don't need permission. Your authority stems not from human systems but from source. And from that place people either lean in or withdraw. You weren't sent to whisper enabling comfortable lies. You were sent to remind the world of divine truth requiring no validation. Your voice doesn't mimic the crowd but pierces the noise, not for edginess but because truth cuts. And you don't just speak truth, you embody it. You hold realms within beyond most comprehension, realms that spill forth upon speaking. Hence the constant feeling of excess, intensity, bluntness, depth. But you're not too much. You're simply articulating a place most haven't yet reached. Third, your knowing threatens every system reliant on control, precisely why you've always felt targeted, singled out, or watched even when innocent. Never a problem because of loudness or rebelliousness, but because of your clear sight, seeing through manipulation, false smiles. Power dynamics, senseless rules, and leadership more lost than the elite. Such clarity is a threat in a world thriving on blindness. You weren't meant to question the narrative. You weren't supposed to ask why people believe demonstrably failing concepts. You weren't supposed to challenge accepted norms. But you did not for attention but for self-honesty. Your inner truth detector precluded compliance, dangerous to control systems. Religion couldn't place you. School couldn't contain you. Workplaces found you too honest. Relationships labeled you difficult for resisting nonsense, manipulation, or restrictive structures. You weren't built to blindly follow, but to expose systemic flaws. Hence constant resistance. Your presence reveals the broken. They don't just dislike your questions, they fear their ripple effect. That's why gatekeepers attempt to silence you. That's why gossip, word twisting, and villainization occur, not because you are one, but because your clarity threatens control. You weren't sent to be liked by systems, but to disrupt them. Each truth spoken, each fearlessly voiced doesn't just talk. It breaks the spell. Your knowing has the power to collapse illusions, not through violence, but through pure awareness. Some resist liberation, but you were born to be, and whether acknowledged or not, your freedom forces confrontation with their cages. Fourth, you weren't sent to fit in, but to catalyze. Hence the absence of smoothness, simplicity, or normalcy in your life. While others sought approval, belonging, and routine, you quietly ignited illusions, not from mere rebellion, but because truth and comfort are mutually exclusive. You didn't come to blend into a broken system. You came to interrupt, challenge, and question all accepted programming. Hence constant misunderstanding. People attempt to box you, label you, control your tone, demand niceness or calmness. What they're really saying is, stop awakening me. Because your energy does just that. It awakens. You illuminate ignored contradictions, call out normalized dysfunction, and force a level of self-honesty people resist. Not chaos, but your assignment. The world needs no more compliant followers. It's drowning in them. It needs disruptors, souls who shift room energy merely through presence. That's you. You weren't born to agree nor to appease lies. You were designed to expose cracks, speak unspeakable truths, and dismantle false structures through presence alone. Hence the discomfort around you, not from your excess, but from their crumbling illusions. Your life's intensity isn't punishment, but preparation. Resistance wasn't personal, but spiritual, because divine knowledge disrupts fraud. Your words, your silence, your eyes all signal truth's presence, and truth forces falsehood to either flee or be exposed. So no, you're not meant to fit in nor to be universally liked. You were sent to catalyze, and the real ones will thank you for it after the dust settles. Fifth, you were born knowing what you were never taught. No classroom needed to sense danger or detect deception. It was intrinsic. Before manipulation's explanation, you felt mismatched energy and words. Before the concept of vibes, you perceived what couldn't be seen yet screamed through silence. You weren't learning but remembering. Your soul arrived preloaded with instructions, insight, and access to realms most spend lifetimes seeking. Hence the early strangeness of the world. You'd hear words and feel, that's untrue. You'd sit amid smiles and still sense underlying tension, jealousy, or hidden agendas, questioning yourself because no one else noticed. But you weren't crazy or paranoid, merely awake in a world designed for slumber. This inner knowing wasn't acquired but inherited. Your ancestors passed down more than physical traits and traditions. They passed down encrypted knowledge, divine codes, and spiritual tools. And unlike most, your connection remained unbroken. Even young, it worked through you, lacking only the language to describe it. This is beyond intuition. Intuition can be built or honed. What you carry is intrinsic. It's why you've always felt older, why people sought your advice while you were still figuring things out, and why you carried emotional and spiritual weight that wasn't yours because you were born into a world that saw your sensitivity as a problem, not a gift. But that sensitivity is sacred. That knowing is sacred. You didn't stumble upon it. It came through you. It's why you've always seen too much, felt too much, and known inexplicable things. You're not just observant. You're attuned to unfelt frequencies. Not an accident, but your soul remembering exactly who you are. Sixth, you are the answer to questions humanity has yet to ask. That's why you feel out of sync with everything. Conversations bore you, trends don't move you, and most systems feel outdated upon your touch. Not disconnected, but connected to something so advanced that the world hasn't caught up to the questions you're meant to answer. You foresee trajectories long before others realize their present location, and that kind of insight can be incredibly lonely. People desire solutions, but only if they don't necessitate change, and you offer not just new answers, but disruption demanding transformation. Hence rejection, dismissal, or labels of being too intense or deep, not because you're wrong, but because you're early. You carry truths incompatible with current programming. Truths challenging identities, and for many, ignoring the messenger is easier than unpacking the message. You've likely wondered, why can't anyone see what I see? Not arrogance, but reality. You've been navigating with spiritual GPS while most are unfolding maps. You've been speaking a non-existent language, eliciting resistance, not applause, because people dislike being confronted by their unrealized potential. But here's a deeper truth. You're not meant to wait for the world to catch up. You're meant to anchor the future now, planting seeds in hard soil, knowing some won't bloom until long after you're gone. You're not here for approval, but alignment, and the right souls, the rare ones, will recognize you not by your appearance or credentials, but by your resonant frequency. They'll feel the echo of your knowing even without explanation. So yes, it's hard to be ahead of your time, but that makes you necessary. You weren't sent to follow timelines, but to bend them. Seventh, your isolation was an initiation into higher intelligence. What appeared as loneliness, abandonment, or even failure was a deeper, behind-the-scenes transformation. While everyone performed for the world, distracted by noise, opinions, and surface validation, you were being pulled away, stripped of shallowness to allow something sacred to rise. Not a breakdown, but a download. People assumed wasted time, falling off or disappearing. What they missed was your divine rewiring. You weren't hiding, but being hidden, because those called to carry higher knowledge require a cleared crowd, silenced noise, and a broken ego, not to destroy you, but to make room for the greater. The manipulable version of you had to be dismantled so the version hearing directly from source could come online. That quiet season was never empty, but sacredly full. You were in the presence of something too holy for spectators. That cave wasn't a prison, but a womb, and while others chased shallow success or fought for visibility, you learned the language of the unseen. You were being trained by silence, shaped by stillness, and instructed by a power that speaks not in noise, but in knowing. Hence your transformation. Hence the confusing peace you now carry. You didn't just survive isolation, but were transformed by it. What was meant to destroy you became the very place of your construction. Not punishment, but a divine classroom, a sacred initiation into intelligence, discernment, and power unteachable in public. Now you carry untraceable wisdom. They can't comprehend your knowledge or your detachment from what shakes others. Because you underwent something most avoid: divine isolation. And you didn't just undergo it, but grew through it, leaving that silence, carrying the very voice of Source. Eighth, your mind is wired to decode what others are trained to ignore. While most are conditioned to see only the obvious, surface level and socially acceptable, you're attuned to unspoken, deeper layers. You see meaning in overlooked moments. You don't just notice what's happening, but why, what's beneath it, and what it's communicating spiritually. You don't have a regular mind, but a decoding mechanism, not accidental, but designed. You were never meant to accept life at face value. That's why the news doesn't fool you. That's why polished words never distract from underlying energy. While the world is hypnotized by appearances and headlines, you're 5 layers deep, catching the symbolic, the hidden, and the embedded divine fingerprints. And explaining what you see often elicits confusion or skepticism. Because most have been trained to tune it all out, but you never could. You see signs, synchronicities, and repeated patterns, not from paranoia or overanalyzing, but because your mind knows the difference between chaos and divine design. You're not inventing it. You're picking it up. You're processing more than just facts. You're filtering energy, frequency, symbolism, and patterns carrying spiritual messages. Hence the drain of shallow conversations. Hence the lack of interest in superficial jobs or relationships. You were never meant to live in the shallows, but were born for depth. Your brain connects dots that weren't meant to stay disconnected. You're decoding life as a message from source because to you that's exactly what it is. Others might call it overthinking, but their minds were trained to ignore what makes them powerful. Yours wasn't. Yours stayed open. That's why people come to you when things don't make sense, because they know you carry intelligence beyond logic. You don't just observe life, you interpret it in real time, making you a living oracle of truth. Ninth, you inherit knowledge the system seeks to erase. You carry deliberately buried truths, buried by power structures built on distortion. You know things absent from textbook sermons or sanitized documentaries. Your wisdom bypasses filtered versions of history, religion, culture, and identity intentionally rewritten to control the masses. That's why your knowing feels so raw, disruptive, and hard for others to grasp. Because it originates from what's been hidden, not taught. Everything about the modern world is curated to disconnect people from source, from whitewashed history to commercialized spirituality to language redefining truth. The system isn't built to educate, but to program. But you never fully absorbed the programming. You didn't swallow what they handed you. Something in you always felt the cracks. Something in you always knew this wasn't the full story, and you were right. Your soul predates colonization, religion, and empire. The knowledge you carry was passed through bloodlines, dreams, and direct divine encounters. It lives in your bones, your dreams, your instincts. You may lack perfect articulation, but the knowing is there, and when it speaks, it cuts through centuries of lies like a hot blade. That's why the system can't contain you. You don't play by its mental rules because you were never built for its mental cage. So if this resonated with you, if even a flicker of recognition ignited within, know that you're not alone. You're part of something bigger, a collective of awakened souls here to remember and reshape the world. Embrace your knowing, trust your inner compass, and don't be afraid to speak your truth even when it feels like no one else understands. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. What resonated most with you? Do you have any questions or maybe a story of your own experience that you'd like to share? Leave a comment below and let's start a conversation. And if you found this helpful or inspiring, please subscribe so you don't miss future explorations into the deeper truths of existence. We're all in this together. And I'm excited to continue the journey with you. Journey with you. Journey with you. Journey with